What's up, everybody? I have not made a video in a while. I apologize. I have been inundated doing new things and working on my brand. And so, yeah, my focus has shifted. I apologize, but I wanted to create this video to run across all the platforms. And because it's become like really apparent to me just how pervasive this one thing is. And let's talk about it. There's a book out there. I have not read it. I'm not going to say that I have because I haven't. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. And I can't say anything about it. However, just the title itself, The Obstacle is a Way, really resonates with me because so much of my work is just that, like understanding that it's this moment that is the problem and this moment that will actually get us to the next moment. So I've brought this up somewhat before, and the idea that like you can't put the cart before the horse, which a lot of people do. They say, when things change, then I will, instead of recognizing that I need to change so things can change, right? So then things will shift. And so I wanted to break down a little bit more in real time and tangible format what this really means and how to shift out of it, right? So again, a lot of people will say, when things change, then I will. Meaning that like the obstacle at hand isn't being addressed. What you're doing is you're hoping or waiting for things to shift on their own, when in reality, they never do. So a lot of times, actually all the time, it's not that we are responding to our circumstances, it's that our circumstances are responding to us. And so when people say this, like, oh, when things get better, what you're doing is you're putting your power on your circumstances, and your circumstances are going, okay, well, she's not in her power and she's waiting. So we're just going to do that, take her power and wait. So like that's the message you're sending out. So nothing is going to shift from that position, right? So how do we shift out of that? Okay. I'll use a personal example for this because I'm not afraid to do so. We'll just talk about one of my pitfalls and how I deal with it. All right. So we all have like, let's say 5 triggers that when they come up, we throw our hands up and then we just don't move any further. We're like, that is what it is, and that's done. And for me, one of those triggers is not knowing how. So I'm motivated, I'm driven, and I don't have a fear of stepping in and trying something as long as I know how. But see, if the hows elude me, then I get triggered and I think, okay, well, I don't know how. So then I kind of throw my mental hands up, and then I push it away and procrastinate, and then wake up the next day, same position. So you see how, we're basically creating our circumstances. Our circumstances are not creating us. We are in a perpetual cycle. And so when the obstacle shows up of frustration over the fact that I don't know how, a switch in that moment would be, okay, I need to find help then. I need to start asking questions about how to get around this obstacle, how to work through this particular problem, so that way I can get to the other side, right? Even though my frustration will have me thinking that I'm inept, stupid, can't get around it, can't do it. And then I just stay stuck, right? I push it off because now I don't want to deal with that inner resistance that comes up, that inner, I don't want to go there, and leave it for another day. So this is where in that moment you go, no, the obstacle is the way. The frustration, the not knowing how, is the way to where I need to go. So again, I would seek help, ask for help, ask questions to get to the other side, start doing research and start moving out of that space, taking action on the thing that's making me uncomfortable, not pushing it aside, thinking it'll go away on its own. No, tomorrow I'm going to wake up, same problem. So this is an example of how moving through the obstacle is the way. And we can find this in like so many different areas of our life, right? Like maybe you want to have better conversations with your spouse, but you don't know where to begin. So you always just default to, being the people pleaser and not really having your needs met or something like that, right? Like, and so then you feel defeated again. And you're like, well, maybe next time he'll just magically show up differently. But like, you haven't changed. You haven't made any changes. And so there's going to be no changes on the external. The material realm is not going to cater to you in any new way. And so you have to identify those triggers. What are the thoughts and feelings or events that happen to bring up your responses, your go-to habits that need to shift, right? So if, someone telling you they're not available makes you feel unwanted or rejected. Okay. So then we know when someone does this, I'm prone to feeling this way. And in that moment, when that feeling of rejection or being unwanted comes up, we have to then go, okay, this is not personal and it doesn't mean anything about me. Right. And I'm going to try again. I'm not going to, like curl up in myself and recoil. I'm going to try again with somebody else or another day, another time. I'm going to just keep leaning in, right? In spite of the fact that I feel rejected or unwanted, right? The obstacle is the way out. And I want to make this really clear because again, everyone always thinks that there's some magical tool where we get to avoid the thing we need to work through to get to the other side. And it doesn't work that way. We have to confront the thing that we like least or feel the most uncomfortable with in order to get to the other side. All right. That is the work, stepping into that moment more. Sometimes just being in that uncomfortable space is a big enough step for that moment. Maybe we don't even take the next step. Maybe we just say, okay, here I am feeling this way again, so that at least you can draw a little bit of perspective to it, and not the identifying with it, but identifying that it showed up. Here it is again. Okay, now I see that this is always the inner response I get to this event. Okay, I see it now. Because we can't change something until we see it. We have to recognize it first. So sometimes just recognizing it is the first step. And then also, like, when things are really monumental in our brain, it seems just completely out of our control. And that's normal. And this is where I would say to you, focus on what you can control. It's amazing how much our minds will literally take something so small and make it into this big, huge ordeal. And if we just write it down, like, this is the problem, this is what I need, you're like, it's actually not that big and it's conquerable. Now, sometimes the problem is out of our control. Say it's you're wanting a different response from someone. We can't control other people's responses, so we don't attempt to try. We have a circle and we list the things that we can control in that circle, and that's our realm of control. And anything that falls outside of that circle is no longer ours to obsess over. We don't give up on it necessarily, but we surrender it and go, well, this is not mine to control. These are the things I can control. And so in moments where you feel really overwhelmed or really out of control, you can come back to that circle and go, okay, where do I have control? Where are there small wins? Where are there things where I am being effective or I am being influential or whatever? Focus on that realm of control. Do not go, oh, see, like, it's never going to change. Just, I try. It's still just that. Now you're dumping your power. It's not just leaking, like, you're dumping your power. So you want to scale back that energy. Again, like, maybe you didn't close that big deal or sell that big piece of real estate the way you thought you would, but like, maybe you're actually eating better. Like, give yourself credit where it's due. Like, okay, well, I am eating better and I can continue to eat better in my realm of control. And when we surrender things, we're not giving up on the goal, ever. We are just giving up on the fact that it's not ours to control in that moment. And that if there's another way, then we're surrendering the how and allowing like a channel to come in to be shown a different way. But in the moment, obsessing and worrying is just a leak. It's just wasting energy. So in order to take it back, we go, well, I can't worry about that right now. I can't control that right now. I can't focus on that right now. So it's going to go over here. It just is. I'm going to focus on what I can control, focus on the obstacles I can overcome, and go from there. And this process will really help you build your confidence, because you're like, well, I've overcome these things in my life, so why can't I overcome this, right? It'll help build your confidence and give you that emotional muscle and that psychological muscle to keep going. Another trick that I would play on myself during some of my harder transformations was knowing that the bigger the obstacle appeared, the closer I was to change. Because as we're getting close to a breakthrough, it doesn't get easier, it gets worse. And that's because we are basically wired, our homeostasis, that old homeostasis that we're trying to move out of, doesn't go down without a fight. And so as the attractor of our circumstances on its way out, what happens is we end up attracting to us situations that will actually mirror the place we're trying to move away from. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's like going on a diet and all of a sudden, like, your hunger pains, spike. And it's like you have to override the hunger pain in order to stay in that calorie deficit so that you can lose weight. But like, the hunger doesn't just go away on its own, right? It's trying to maintain homeostasis. If you're trying to go from 150 to 120, your body's like, no, we like 150, and it's going to spike up that hunger to try to get you to stay at 150, you to identify with 150 and to maintain homeostasis there. And that change goes for anything in our life. And so if you're integrating this work and you feel like it's getting harder, it's because it's working. It's because that shift is getting ready to snap. And you're that much closer to a breakthrough and a new leveled up energetic position. All right. One of the best examples that I love to give, when I was a yoga teacher, we used to do, there's lots of back bends in Ashtanga. And just even getting flexible in general, right? Like, there's so much mobility in that practice. And it was super common that as people would get more pliable, more flexible, their back bends would get deeper for months. They're like, yes, I'm making all this progress. And then they wake up one day to practice and they have no mobility. Like, they're tighter than they were when they started. And this is such a classic example of what happens when we're breaking the old homeostatic pattern and shifting into a new one. And I would say, you're going to get tighter before the breakthrough, before a permanent breakthrough. And so every time someone would get to that point where they feel like they lost the bend or lost the class, they were actually that much closer to a permanent breakthrough. And so keep that in mind, that any shift that we make is no different. The closer we are to a change, the more it looks like we're stuck. And that's just so that way your ego, or what the part of you that wants you to stay stuck, can hopefully trick you back. Don't give in. The obstacle is the way. See the obstacle for what it is. Lean in anyway, and focus on the things that you can control in that moment to keep your vibration high. All right. I hope that was helpful, guys. I'm offering a couple of new programs. I'm still doing the one-to-ones. And I think I'm going to launch a beta program just for fun on taking back your power. If you're interested in that, it's going to be like a 10-week program. And then I have another program that I'm launching with my business partner. And that's going to be the bigger transformation on the personal as well as the business side. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me, email me, whatever. Love to hear from you. And I hope that this was helpful. All right. Bye, guys.